The professor that you're about to see made an appearance on GB News. Few things to bear in mind about this man. First of all, he has a deep obsession with Donald Trump. If you go and look at his online profile and the things he says online, he incessantly talks about Donald Trump for whatever reason that is. He also talks incessantly about Russia and Gaza, as you would expect. He's an open borders lunatic. He's a socialist, of course. And like all socialists, when confronted with any argument, even by the pleasant people here, these two presenters were quite nice to this person, and he was rude, he was obnoxious, and he was arrogant. And like all socialists, partway through the conversation, you get to see the whites of his eyes, because like all socialists, he's a bug-eyed lunatic.
What was he saying that was nonsense about immigration?
Oh, he was talking, just repeating the standard lines that immigration is an existential threat to Europe. And of course, I live in Europe. And of course, I lived in the UK for almost 40 years. I just listened to 10 minutes of commentary on immigration on your channel, a lot of which was misinformation. I could talk to you right now about what the real figure is regarding channel crossings compared to 2022. Indeed, channel crossings are down 15% compared to 2022. I can talk to you about the number of asylum seekers in hotels.
But they're up 50% on last year.
Yeah, but they're down since 2022, which you never seem to mention. And you never seem to mention the fact that there are these fluctuations. The number of asylum seekers in hotels is down 15% from last year. That's down 15% from last year. It is not illegal to cross the channel in a small boat if you claim asylum. It's perfectly legal under international law. And about 70% of asylum seekers in the UK, their claims are eventually accepted. In other words, they have a legitimate case to come to the United Kingdom. The same thing has been said in many countries, false claims about immigration in Europe. I'm very concerned about the fact that you get out the proper information, precisely whether it's in the US, the UK, or Europe, because this misinformation, especially when it's amplified time and time again, does feed tension, it does feed discord, and it does feed violence, which, by the way, is one reason why the government made the announcement yesterday about that concern about what is going on social media. The fact is that we went through an episode in the UK last year where misinformation, falsehoods about what happened in Southport fed violence for 2 weeks in the country that used to be my home. And that type of thing from all people, whatever our views in terms of border security versus the rights of asylum seekers, is something we should be concerned about.
Scott, one thing, first of all, it is illegal to enter the country on a small boat from France under British law. That is a criminal offence.
But not under international law. See, that's something that you probably should mention as well, that this has been a right which has been guaranteed
this
since
is
the
Britain,
1950s.
this is British law we're living under here at the moment, so that is illegal.
And
so
you also observe international law.
It is a criminal offence.
But there's a conflict because the government also purportedly observes international law, does it not?
Well, I don't know. You need to ask the government that. But this is British law, and it is illegal to do that. And the statistics and the numbers we use come from the government. So are you accusing the British government of spreading misinformation?
Which statistics are you referring to?
The number of migrants the number of migrants in hotels. When you say they have gone down, yes, they have gone down slightly because the government are moving them into private homes.
No, the government are using a different variety of tactics for handling them. Part of the reason why the number of asylum seekers has gone down in the UK is because it's become much more difficult to claim asylum in the UK. In other words, you speak a lot about people who cross by small boats into the UK, but you don't speak about the overall number of undocumented migrants. Now, the number of undocumented migrants in the UK is not surging. That's something that you don't report. And indeed, the number of overall immigrants into the United Kingdom last year was close to 1 million. So the number of people that cross by small boats compared to migration in the UK is less than 5%.
Now, part of the reason why people like this gentleman here get so annoyed is because they are losing the argument. Every day, it would seem that the British people are coming more and more annoyed with the general state of the decay of our country. We don't want this mass migration. And if you are a believer in democracy, then you would have to agree with me that a majority of the people of this country don't want it. That's why the politicians are so worried about reform, because they're the only party that are talking about doing anything about it in reality. Again, within that conversation there, you caught it, the misinformation, and you're pumping this information out and all of those talking points. And this is in line with the disinformation campaign that the government is waging its current war on. But in reality, GB News is quite fair in its approach, and as the Dawn lady said, they're just quoting government statistics. They're not quoting GB News statistics. But of course, then the gentleman comes back and he starts getting annoyed, and this is what people do. Now, we could come up with a series of clever arguments to beat this person, because the quotes that he's using, the facts that he's using, are bogus. Everybody knows that these illegal crossings are increasing year on year, and more people are coming. And in fact, this is just the start. More and more people are going to continue to come, and it's only going to increase, and everybody knows that. So this man has a bogus argument. There are lies, there are damn lies, and then there are statistics. And I believe it was Mark Twain that said that. And so what this gentleman is doing here, he's picking out the necessary statistics that he needs to further and progress his silly arguments. And, it needs to be remembered in all of this, this man doesn't actually live in the UK, but he thinks it's his place as a professor, of course, as a clever gentleman, and as part of the intelligentsia of the elite class that are ruining this country. He believes it's his right that he can lecture the British people on international law. And again, you see the dividing line. This internationalist mindset, all of the time we are being drawn in to the internationalist mindset, which is really a globalist mindset. And the things that are happening in our country aren't happening on the world stage. They're happening in this country. And so all of these internationalist arguments that keep being thrown at us, we should be really concerned about Donald Trump. We need to be worried about Vladimir Putin. We should be very angry about what's happening in Gaza. And we need to recognise how tough it's been for these people who fled Africa, who are importing the third world into your country. And in fact, you need to start buying homes for all of these people and giving them money so they can gamble it away in betting shops. Now, all of these arguments can be combated with facts and figures, but the easiest way for us to approach the argument is like this. Do you believe in democracy? And if you do believe in democracy, then one of the things that you have to recognise is that most of the people in this country don't want it. The British people don't want this anymore. We're sick and tired of dealing with globalist, socialist professors who, when they're confronted with the least little bit of pushback, tend to get really angry. Is that how a professor's supposed to go on? Bug-eyed socialism strikes again, and I'm tired of it, and I think we're all getting a little bit tired of these arguments. Simple fact of the matter is, we just don't want it. That's all there is to it. Thanks very much for your time.